They should have said the poet. The poet. They should have said the poet. The poet.
This is Sending Poets, a podcast about ideas. Our goal is to understand metaphorical truths within the beauty we find in the human experience. Sending Poets.
Wow, politics, man. Sometimes the ride is no thanks. Sometimes should stay on. My name is John. With me is Bob and Tucker. Good morning, you guys.
Hey, deep cut on that one. That was
Thanks. Yeah. So in this episode, we're continuing our exploration of politics and possible alternatives for the future. And yeah, that haiku is something I wrote. Just kind of summarizes my general belief. Sometimes I am just like not interested in it at all, and other times I think like, well, I probably should be aware of what's going on. So,
well, even if you're not interested in politics, politics is interested in you.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
that's not original. I don't know who has generalized from something. I can't.
Okay, yeah, that could be interesting
might be paraphrased off of war. I think if you're not interested in war is interested in you or something.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah. There's some haiku potential in there too, it sounds like. But yeah, I wanted to start with this week. The Time Suck podcast episode was about Alexander Hamilton. It was pretty interesting. There was one part that stuck out to me that I think I'd heard this before, but hearing it again was like it was extra interesting. That until 1804, the way the vice presidency worked was the vice president was the runner-up in the presidential election. And the example he used is like, can you imagine in 2016 if Hillary Clinton was the vice president to Donald Trump, or Donald Trump was the vice president to Joe Biden? And like, wow, that's interesting. So I think it might be fun to like go back to this, but I don't want to dig in too much now. But there is, I think it ties into this concept of like ranked choice voting that we wanted to start with. So I don't know, Bob or Tucker, if one of you wants to pick up there first.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk to that a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on it, but basically you'd have, and it works better with more parties. Like say you had 5 political parties, 5 candidates running. When you vote 4 or 5 people in the order of you liking them, right? So you have to write down the order of which candidate you think is best to worst. And then what happens is, once they tally all those votes, the candidate with if nobody's over 50%, the candidate who receives the least amount of votes is dropped, and the votes that they received are then redistributed to the remaining candidates in the same order as, or with the same percentages as how they are voted for in that ranking. And the same thing happens again. The candidate with the least, they're dropped, their votes are reallocated based on the ranking of how people have voted for them until you have a clear winner. And
can you elaborate there, because I might be missing like the reallocation part of it?
And that's where I'm a little shady on it. I can't speak to exactly how it works, but I believe it's something like, you know, I think it's something like, you know, whoever is dropped, like their vote goes now to your top choice. So I don't know. It's a little, it's, I have not had
I
it
think there's
explained
I,
to me
I think there's variations, by the
crystal
way,
clear.
right?
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
but
I don't think it's actually something that's been completely hammered out, and I could be wrong about that, but it allows for more, I think. Well, first of all, it allows for more political parties, which is really, I think, one of the biggest flaws we have right now is that
right.
you have giant turd or shit
Yeah.
sandwich, and none of us really, well, most of us really don't want either of them.
Right.
yeah, I think there is a conceptualization. We don't have to get into the specifics, but the concept being with a rank system, everybody gets, first of all, more choices, and then a um, an emergent phenomenon of having, say, 5 in the list could be that you have two groups that are both vying, two large groups that are vying for each of their candidates, quote unquote, to be the top candidate, but they rank their opponent very, very low, such that the third choice is actually the winner. So imagine you have the third, like say one candidate, the strong third party candidate is the third rank for everybody's ballot. And then not half, but let's say 30% is ranking their candidate one and the other major candidate last every time, and vice versa. Does that make sense? Like, so say Republicans, Democrats, and third party X. Let's say we have 5 parties all in the mix. The Republicans are always going to vote for Trump as first and Harris last. And the Democrats vote for Harris first and Trump last. And that allows for a third party candidate who's ranked second or third on everybody's ballot to win. That makes sense? So it's a way to split a binary if there's a strong negative. It almost goes back to this concept of Survivor. Like in Survivor, and when you have down to 5, this is the game show. When you're
Yeah.
down to 5 people, the 2 people are always, 2 people on each, assuming that there's 2 groups of 2 that are each aligned, and then there's one solo candidate. Like no one's afraid of the solo candidate. They're going to go out next round anyway. So it's always going to be a matter of trying to get your opponent out. The strongest player on your opponent's team is the person you're trying to vote out. So if each candidate is voting for their own, but they're downranking their opponent, then somebody who's kind of neutral or acceptable to both sides is the eventual winner. That's kind of my understanding.
I'm just remembering that I forgot to look into British politics, but I've heard bits and pieces over that they don't have a 2-party system. They have more choices. Does that resonate with you guys?
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. I think it might even be like a dozen different political parties over there.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Maybe I'll do some homework for.
Yeah, they have a parliamentary system, and what you'll have is like alliance will be formed to form a government. So you have to have a majority of aligned sub-parties that are, broadly speaking, let's just say conservative or liberal, just because that's left wing, right wing is kind of a generic, designation. But you would have a bunch of parties, 4, 5, 6, 7 on each side, and the parties are relatively small, but then they will collect and form a unity government based on a majority of total seats of representation.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
it allows for horse trading in essence. So let's just say, in order to get to the majority so that you can form a government, the left or right wing has to then make concessions to a relatively small number, a small party, in order for them to join their caucus and become a majority. So this is really important. I think it's a great concept in that what I'm talking about with the third party concept is doing that, but not in a parliamentary sense. So what I'm saying is to get 6 votes on the Senate is going to force the majority sides, either left or right, to compromise in order to earn the votes of a relatively small section of the votes. So that's what the parliament system does. It has many, many parties, but they have to form a unity. There's no one majority. There's so many parties. There's no one majority. They have to have a bunch of little tiny composites of these little tiny parties that all will unify and back one prime minister or back one side of the house or whatever you want to call it. And so it's much more of a compromising system is the point. Whereas our current system is winner take all.
Right.
And that breeds polarity and like fight to the death. And you're my enemy now. You're not just my countryman who disagrees. Like you're my enemy.
Yeah. Right.
So that's exactly. I like the point of view of bringing up the a different system. In that, that's the game theory that I'm trying to employ with this third party concept. Not trying to go top down, because I don't think you could go top down without having multiple parties in a ranked choice kind of thing. I just don't think in our system it would even be feasible to. I mean, maybe with the vice president being the second. I think that's a very interesting thing, by the way. And I was not familiar with that. I don't know, not heard of that. But I think that's a very interesting way to do it. It would probably be chaotic at this point, but I just wonder.
I would say in those two examples of the last 2 elections, just both of you laughed, justifiably so, because
think about this. Think about like a president and a prime minister. Maybe you just split it because a lot of countries will have a president and a prime minister. And so you kind of have a president, vice president situation, but just with different terms. But the vice president is not so powerless. They're kind of like, one's the leader of the executive and one's the leader of the legislative side. It's just a weird formulation, but it's a way to separate from an all-powerful executive branch that, even though we are supposed to have separation of powers, we've gravitated towards a very strong federal system, very strong executive branch. And this goes back to that 17th Amendment thing where, the Senate is now voted for directly by the people in each state, which is kind of a weakening of the states' rights. And anyway, the point is, it's a death match now to get to the Supreme Court nomination process, which means you have to have the presidency and, most likely the Senate in order to put forth. Because let's flip it around. Let's just look at Obama. And Obama was in office when there was a potential nominee. I think it's Scalia who passed away. And, he wanted to nominate somebody. And the Senate was just like, no, we're not going to do it just yet. We're going to wait for the election, see what happens.
Yeah.
And so, it ends up all being this power play to try to get to the Supreme Court because you have a lifetime appointment, and really that's the final say on constitutionality,
right?
And whatever. So the importance of the Senate, and by the way, they flip-flopped. Of course they did.
Yeah.
They flip-flopped when it was Trump's turn and it was close to the election.
Get that in there.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. Yeah, I got to put that out there. So this goes back when I mentioned last episode about the Senate race in Montana and how one side is saying, our guy is a true Montanan and the other guy is a newcomer, carpetbagger, whatever you want to call him. Like, he's not a true Montanan, whatever true Montana means. But where I propose, and I can't tell this for sure, but I propose if the situation were reversed, the arguments would likewise be reversed. And there's no actual principle layer in politics in our current situation. It's literally whichever side your bread is buttered on. That's the argument you're going to make.
Yep.
For anything.
Yeah.
And it flip flops. So this segues, by the way, to what I want to get into. If you guys are ready to jump in.
Well, one thing I'll just share, similar experience, I think, similar-ish, with our mayoral election in Colorado Springs, the last time, which was 2 years ago, I guess. What I remember about the campaigning was that the incumbent mayor, he'd already done, I think, 2 terms, so the guy he was endorsing was more, on the conservative side, and his opponent was more on the liberal side. What I remember was I got at least 3 mailers, from the conservative candidates side of things that didn't say a single word about what he wanted to do. They only said, "Do not vote for the other guy because you don't want that. We don't want that. That would make our city like Denver. We don't want to be like Denver. We're going to lose our city if we don't." I mean, it was just such a weird tactic, in my opinion. And then to what brought it home was, like, I watched a debate between these 2 guys, and it was very similar. The conservative side guy, almost every answer he gave was, "Well, yeah, I think what we're doing now is pretty good, and I'll just I just want to keep doing that." Whereas the liberal guy was like, "It's not bad, but it could be better. And that's why I want to be mayor. I want to make it better." It was a very, like, stark contrast between, like, here's things, this is why I want to, be mayor. I want to make things better. I want to, like, look at these specific things. And the other side of it was like, "Oh God, don't do that. Nope, we got to just keep it the same. Just keep it the same. You don't want to change." And it was it was very gnarly. So not the exact same thing that you're talking about, Bob, and with what you're seeing in Montana, but it was just,
Well, let's start there. Actually, this reminds me of something we talked about, I think, on the pod a couple episodes ago, or maybe it was in a pregame conversation about Oppenheimer. And this is going to get to the spirit of this third party concept that I have. The spirit of the party is going to be anti this thing you're talking about, meaning anti-negative. So talking bad, because here's what I hear when I hear, like, in my head, when I hear the mailer that you got, I can hear it in a campaign setting, and I can hear the crowd roar, and I can feel the stomp of the feet.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I want to get away from. So going back, because I know you guys understand, just for the audience, in Oppenheimer, there's a time where Oppenheimer, the character, is explaining the success of their project, and the thunderous applause of the people in the bleachers, and
stomping on the feet and on the bleachers too.
Intoxicating event. Like, it literally, it's so well shot. It's so well, the cinematography and the edits and everything is, because it's a continuity throughout the rest of the show. This evocative feeling of, like, they worked so hard and they did so much and they had this moment of glory, but the reality is the melting of children and women, old people and dogs and cats and whatever. I mean, just the insanity of the thing. The insanity of the thing was superseded by a bunch of clapping.
Yeah, right.
And I cannot stress enough, human beings are susceptible to the clapping and the stomping, and to be showered with applause as an individual human is beyond intoxication. And you guys as bandmates and you guys as performers, I'm sure you could also just weigh in on the feeling, the visceral feeling of having energy given to you by an audience.
Sure. I remember the words, I think all of us had mentioned one time or another, like, how cool it would be one day if, like, we're playing a song and we see people, like, singing the song back to us, and there was, like, a particular song with just some kind of more, like, spoken repetitive thing, but we had that moment at a show once, like that first time where people were, like, singing it back to us, and it was like goosebumps, man. It was just like, holy shit.
And I think people are primally encoded for that feeling. As a team social creature, we are not individuals. We are part of a group. And to be the one in the group that's being showered with that praise. So back to the politics. I think we've all now set the stage of what I'm talking about. What I fear most is the crowd. It's not the politician. It's the crowd. It's the crowd giving their energy to a singular or a small group of people that they are able to then do horrible, horrible things with that power and that energy, that feeling empowers them to do things and to not think clearly. I hope is the way. I hope it's not a conscious decision to do the things that have been done. But what I'd like to do is cut that cord. I would like to start a cultural revolution in the party. Bad choice of words. I would like to start a paradigm shift of how we support our politicians. And it should be this. It should be one of silence. It should be one of a lecture hall. It should be one of deliberation and rational thinking and skepticism. It should be one of calmness.
Yeah.
And that's where I want the strike to come. The strike to me, like I get choked up thinking about it, of a massive body of humanity just staring in silence at somebody calmly discussing information topics, not trying to say this guy is bad, so vote for me because I'm not this guy.
Right.
Or not trying to say, just keep doing it the way we've always been doing it, or just change because it's time for a change. Like, imagine talking about actual topics quietly.
Yeah.
Dispassionate, but with thousands and thousands of people. This is the tension I want. I want thousands and thousands of people with rapt attention staring at somebody with intensity and getting the best out of them. And
like a TED Talk.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
There's one old political idea we could bring back that I think would help with that, and that's dueling as a means of dispute resolution between politicians.
Aaron Burr style.
You gotta think about what you say a little more and be a little more tactful in stating your argument.
Just to to go back to the Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, and that was another thing that Dan Cummins mentioned in the podcast, that the insult rascal, calling someone a rascal, was like really intense back then, apparently. That it was like seen as like a really like, and how things have changed, you know what I mean?
Them's fighting words, John.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I think about it. People, often have that mythical notion of, I'd love to go live back in this day and age. And I'm like, I would be killed for my mouth in a matter of minutes. There is no way. I don't even want to go back to the 50s, man. I'd be a heretic.
That tickles me so much to think about that. How true that is. Oh my goodness.
Well, a lot of the terms now, even like way back, I mean, it would just be completely like foreign words. Like, what does that mean? You could totally like shape the context of what the words mean, because so many of these words like didn't in phrases. They're unique to our time. I think
we'd be unintelligible to the here we go, unintelligible.
It's just like me trying to listen to a Gen A kid. I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying, dude.
For real. no cap or whatever.
Yeah. No cap. For real. Yeah. Well, I like the concept though of evolution, meaning it seems we're so stuck in the mire now with the current system, but this joking around sheds a very bright light on the fact that the only thing that is unchangeable is change. It's going to happen. It's forced in the system. There's no way to hold on. And the more that the powers that be hold on, the tighter the grip, the looser it gets. So I'm supremely confident something will change, whether it's controlled or uncontrolled. That scares me. So I'd like a controlled change. And controlled change starts, I feel, with a seed, like a a crystal form that then replicates itself. It grows like a crystal grows, and it grows in the same proportions, and it's a fractal representation of a really big picture that starts with a tiny, tiny little representation. So that's the concept here, is to get to the presidency. We're going to start with a single 3 guys right here having a conversation, and it may take 100 years, 150 years, whatever, 50 years, 10 years, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is, some crack in this facade is minute as can be, but that little crack will be wedged, and it will grow, and it will bring the whole thing down. And so it starts with this cultural shift between the rah-rah, almost feels like a football game or a gladiator, arena nowadays. When I my stomach churns when I watch clips or anything from a political campaign speech or a rally or a convention. It literally makes me nauseous, because I know what that means. I know what this is happening. I know what's happening, which is whipping crowds up into frenzies, creating this mob mentality where the people lose themselves. They lose their individuality. They become this mass effect, and it's exploitable. This goes back to like being a demagogue and having a cult of personality. And was that song, right? Cult of Personality, is that Living Color?
Living Color. Yeah.
I mean, dang, that's a great song. So this concept, I think, is one that is fresh. Like, I would like, it's such a juxtaposition of the current way of things, where they're trying to pile on with rah-rah, with now doing it on TikTok and YouTube and in person and on text and on your phone and on, like, it's everywhere. It's so nauseating.
And to be clear, it's regardless of what the message is, it's the mob
Correct.
mentality kind of
Correct.
reaction.
That's right. I don't give a shit. It has nothing to do with the politics at all. It's the fundamental nature of politics, not there's no issues. It's just all trying to whip people up into a frenzy in order to get to the winner take all battle. And one of the two giant douche shit sandwich is going to win now. And we're going to lose as a collective every single time. And it seems like we're losing in tiers, worse and worse every time. We're descending every time now. So I like that.
I mean, to me, it almost feels like both sides are trying to whip the mob into the mentality of burning it all down, so that Big Brother's strong arm can come in and save everybody at the end. And God, that is not what needs to fucking happen.
Yeah, interesting. I don't follow a ton of it, but for my part, like, I'm interested in what the message is. I hear what you're saying about the mob mentality. That is like a very fascinating aspect of what it means to be a human. And we were just talking about that before we started recording. Like, I'm totally subjective to that. We went to a show last night, and there's a singer in one of the bands, and he's super quirky, and everybody get out and ride your bicycle, woo! And I'm like sitting there riding my bicycle, and Tucker's like, that's not me. We were laughing about it, but like, I appreciate that. But I'm also interested in the messages, and I don't know, some of the stuff I've seen, I I think there's like good messages there. But I don't want to get too in the weeds there. But yeah, it's an interesting piece here. But yeah, but I'm sorry to distract there. But yeah, Bob, I want you to keep going on to your this crowdsourcing idea. I think you're like getting close to that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, let's set the stage then, that this is going to be a deliberative body, meaning that the party itself is the deliberative body. It's not the politician who's pushing down ideas, meaning down as a trajectory. It's not a top-down choice of what the policies are or the ideas are. It's a bottom-up. So what I'm envisioning is a crowdsourced plank of the party platform. So we have this party. Let's just call it the Liberty and Justice Party. Two main things are liberty and justice, obviously. And this harkens back to, the founding of the Republic. And on the liberty side, imagine each person free. So if you were to join this party, politically speaking, if you were of the 3 states, we talked about having 3 states, and it didn't matter, what your political alliance is, there would be some kind of a home for you. So it's not a conservative party, it's not a liberal party, it's not a centrist party, it's all 3 effectively, or any way, shape, and form, however you want to collectivize these things, meaning it can adapt into the future and to be whatever, but it's a agree to disagree party.
Yeah.
It's a big tent party. It's like we're all here to win as a team. We're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Pitting us against each other is inherently wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. More both and less either or.
Correct. Exactly. Thank you, John. That's a much more succinct and beautifully way put. So what I'm getting at, though, is for liberty is I have ideas. You guys have ideas. Our neighbors have ideas. Our friends have ideas. But the only person who has ideas that matter is the politician campaigning, telling you, I promise you I will do this and I will do that. And my opponent won't do any of these things. So they're bad. And I'm good. And vote for me because I promise you. It's about promising things. Okay. And I think it was Jefferson. I think it was Jefferson talking about, I'm giving you a republic if you can keep it. Meaning, once democracies realize they can vote themselves anything they want, that's when shit goes off the rails. So once you have the 3 wolves and a sheep voting for what's for dinner, you realize that just having a majority of votes means you can pretty much do anything you want. And so making campaign promises about what I will do for you, like goes back to JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That's a team.
Yep.
Okay, so going back to this concept of we're on a team, regardless of your affiliation of the spectrum of your individual bent, left or right or center or whatever, we're all going to agree. We're going to be able to disagree on certain things and agree on the federal level. But how do we get there? What does that actually mean? What is the concrete example of what I'm talking about? And the best way I can describe this phenomenon would be through something like Reddit, where you have users and karma and the ability to create topics and then vote up and down on these topics and then create comments and have these threads of content. So here's the concept. As you join this party, you would get a credential. So if you're signed up, just like if you sign up to be a Democrat or you sign up to be a Republican or you sign up to be a Green Party, whatever, you can register for a political party. If you register for the Liberty and Justice Party, you would then be able to create an account. And as a junior member of the party with no karma, you would be able to vote up and down on anybody else's topics. And perhaps as you gain karma, you'd be able to start posting for your state and local, and then eventually at the federal level. And the concept is crowdsourcing the planks of the platform. So I hope we're all familiar with this metaphor. You have a party that has a platform, meaning this is what the party stands for. This is what we stand upon, literally in the metaphorical sense. We stand on our platform. And what is our platform made out of? It's made out of planks. And each plank is a concept of the party itself. So what I'm trying to get to, guys, is envisioning a framework, but I am not the designer of the party platform itself. I'm not saying I'm smart enough or I know enough. I don't think any one human being is, and I think it's disastrous to vote for people who say they know best.
Yeah.
What I really want to do is decentralize the decision making of the platform itself, and then the people we vote for would be people who are promising that they will represent the party, its platform, each plank in the platform, with an idea on how to achieve that goal. So the ingenuity that comes to the table on the representative side is not giving us the promises itself. The party tells us what our promises are. The party tells us these are the planks of our platform. Each individual representative would say, this is how I would go about achieving this plank of the platform itself. And the way we build the platform, plank by plank, would be through a Reddit style. What would you call this thing? It's not a message board, but it's a
it's like
network.
it's like a social. It's like a platform for social collaboration. I think.
Yeah, thank you. So it's crowdsourcing the concepts where
Yeah.
certain individuals who would have identity, you would have your own identity within the party platform, the social network. You'd have your identity and you'd have karma. So this would be a history of,
Good faith participation.
Thank you. Yeah, the history of your value of your participation. Okay, a history of your worth in the context of creating ideas or commenting on other people's ideas. And the crowd is sourced with up down votes. So democratic, everybody gets an up or down vote. It doesn't matter if you're at the top of the party or at the bottom, you get one up and down for every comment, every new post, whatever, And I think that's the heart of democracy, is one person, one vote. And so at the level of, because let me take a little diversion here. I think it's very valuable. And I think Tucker brought this up last time, and I did too, with Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul, where there was a great upswell, a grassroots upswell of support for these politicians who were of a party, but not really. They were kind of like countercultural to their own party, revolutionaries in their own party. And no matter how much ground level support they got, the powers that be, because let's go back to what the party is. The party is a private company. The private organization is not a function of government. It is not a federal system. It is a corporation, a nonprofit. It is an organization that is made up of a leadership, and the leadership can override the power of the people. And that's what happened to Bernie. That's what happened to Ron Paul, is that they got screwed over. Not that they would have won their nomination necessarily, but the entire value of what they brought to that primary situation, meaning that the trying to find out who's going to be the nominee for the giant douche and the shit sandwich was right. In itself rigged. And this is the whole point. We're at the point of, they don't rig, maybe they do, but they don't rig the election, but they rig the primary. And because we don't have ranked choice, you're fucked. So eat it, you little pieces of shit. That's what I feel like they're telling me. I literally feel like they're telling me, Bob, just go eat it. Fuck you. Fuck you raw. I'm gonna fuck you hard. Sorry, this is an explicit episode. I apologize in advance, everybody.
The tag's always on. The tag's always on our episodes, so it's all good.
I just feel like they're not even trying to grease it up anymore. They're just giving it to you raw dog, and just like, you're gonna take it, and I want you to squeal, and I don't care about it at all. I enjoy the fact that you're getting. I love the screams of the people.
Yeah.
And it's just so antithetical to how we started this game, meaning the game of our nation here. And to me, it needs to all be torn down, but not torn down in the sense of top down. I think they will hold all the cards. And I'm using they as the powers that be, the people who are, status quo, the people in charge right now. They have a duopoly. They have an ability to control the entire system. And the fact that there are no viable third parties, to me, is direct evidence of this. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you will get a third party run at this. You have to start at the bottom level. So back to the concept. What do you guys think of being able to have an organic, democratic process of building the party's platform and voting upon these issues in order to have the politicians that represent us in good faith have a clear directive of what we want them to do and be held accountable as such? What do you guys think about that?
It sounds revolutionary. I love it. If I wasn't so excited about watching movies and sitting on the patio and writing haikus, I feel like, yeah, this is where I would drive my creativity. How do we make this happen? But I don't think I'm that motivated, but I love the idea. I love the idea.
What do you think about the idea? Just on the idea level. I'll get to how we make it real, but what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's just like, where has this been my whole life? That's what I think.
I do. My concern would be that you would still have the political extremes being louder than the moderate voices. And I don't know that would necessarily be the case, but that is my worry, is that the people most inclined to participate in these systems are going to be the the same groups that we have voting red or blue no matter what now. And
Yeah. Sorry, keep
yeah,
going.
I don't know. But to your point, John, you create a system where your electronic devices do not unlock unless you spend your 30 minutes a day participating in democracy.
Mm. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, because I was gonna say I think the way my brain went is right to the perfect example of this new system, and I just went right past like potential roadblocks, potential issues, like what about this, what about that. Um, so that's you know those are important things to talk about too. Like yeah, because so one of my questions I did think of, maybe you're gonna get to it, Bob, but like especially with this like karma process, just with Reddit, it's all based on users just up or down voting, correct?
Yes.
And I think uh, Tucker is somebody with a lot more karma than me. Is it a fair statement to say that like some of your karma, or maybe a lot of your karma, comes from your sort of like sarcastic take on things and the
Yeah.
jokes that you kind of throw out there? And so my mind is like, I'm less of a sarcastic person, so I kind of see myself maybe not, you know, having as much success as someone like Tucker, even though I might want to share ideas and put things out there. That would be a concern of mine. Is like,
Can I
I
talk
don't.
to that? I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
profound. I think that's like a second order effect of like, okay, assuming Bob, you get your way and we can do this thing. What happens when it becomes gamed, or there's
Yeah, right.
uh,
The gamification of it, right?
yeah, the gamification of it. And here's my first take is the government should be of the people, by the people, for the people. So if our people are sarcastic people, then it should be
Good
of the
point.
people, by the people, for the
Good
people.
point. Good point. Yeah.
So I think it's more of, this is what I cannot stress it enough. I do not have the solution. I would not start by building the platform myself.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable putting forth my ideas that I know are mine and trying to push that forward to everybody. I really think it is liberty and justice. So this episode is about liberty, by the way. The liberty is about the freedom, the ability to expand yourself and breathe and feel free to express your true nature and compel others, or tamp down others who are trying to compel you, or whatever. I really think that's the strength. The real strength here is in humans being real and having a chance to influence other people, not through force, but through ideas.
Yeah.
So let me do a real quick side tangent of economics, and it's going to be very brief. And my death blow to the communist side compared to the capitalist side, not saying either is perfect, but just my death blow is communist restricts the formula of prosperity to those with the means of production control, and they steal the labor of the proletariat, and that's what their profit is stealing the labor, essentially. And my take on it is, there's one piece of capital that is the most valuable thing in the universe and is the most important to every endeavor, and it has nothing to do with land or machines, and that's ideas. So having an idea, a new idea, and being able to have freedom of speech to express that idea is the genesis of almost all of prosperity. Now, of course, land is intrinsically valuable, and machinery. I can't build a chip factory because I don't have $1 billion, or I can't make GPUs or whatever. Oh, poor baby, So what? I have the freedom to create any fucking idea in the entire universe. No one can stop me. It is mine. Everybody has that thing, whether they can use it or not. I mean, that's Some people can dunk a basketball, some can't. I get it. But what we all have in information theory is the ability to share ideas at no cost, meaning if I give you my idea, it doesn't take it from me.
Mm-hmm.
And we can replicate this thing an infinite number of times at the speed of light, essentially. That is going to be the end point. The limit of our process, the limit of our prosperity as a group is going to be a function of our ideas. And so if capitalism means everybody has the ability to put forth an idea with freedom of speech and then prosper upon that, I think that's where we model this thing off of. So I want all the ideas. If they're sarcastic, so be it. If they follow my personal bent of philosophy, good. If not, I'll be a good follower. I don't give a shit. I just want the team. I want a team of people, and I'll take the vote is my point. I won't take the backroom bullshit. I won't take the party pulling tricks, dirty tricks, to not let Bernie on the ticket or to not let Ron Paul speak his mind at the convention. So let me go back real quick to the beginning of this whole thing. It was in 2012, and I volunteered for Ron Paul's campaign in 2011. And I made a shit ton of calls, and I talked to a lot of people, and I did my very best because I believed in this man's vision. And when it came to, and I knew he wasn't going to be the nominee, by the way. I'm not an idiot. I knew they wouldn't let him go. But what I wanted is him to have a level of participation in the convention to bring forth his segment, his 10, 15% of his followers that were going to eventually just go that way. And Romney just blew him out of the water. He wouldn't let him speak. He didn't. So when you have delegates, each state's delegates would go up and have a chance to say, we voted for Ron Paul and he got 9% of the delegates for the state of Washington or whatever. And everybody got to go do this every time for all the nominees in the primary system, except for Ron Paul. They took that from him. They played dirty pool, did not give him a voice. They changed the rules in session to change the limit at which you would be able to come up and discuss your point of view if you got X amount of primary votes. They just arbitrarily changed it just to fuck with Ron Paul. So he was never allowed to come up and speak. And that was the last time I ever gave a shit about party politics. I knew at that point it was a rigged game. This thing is so backroom dealing. And then it happened again with Bernie. So, I mean, it's plain as day to me that there's a small handful of very connected, influential people that have the levers of power in this country. And I'm looking at a way to defeat them. And it's not going to be head on. It's going to be like guerrilla warfare. It's going to be like asymmetrical. But I do feel there is a way. And let me touch real quick, John, if I may, on your point of like, hey, I love the idea perhaps, but it doesn't seem realistic. I mean, it's like David and Goliath here. And, you know, when it's not in a storybook, Goliath wins, right? I mean, come on. Like if you were a betting man, you would never bet on David. Doesn't make sense until after the fact. And then you look back, oh, yeah, of course, David, slingshot. Yeah, totally. But in the moment, nobody believes in that shit. So it seems like an insurmountable, foe. So here's my point. The thing that wins is not the attack, it's the story. So the story, the truth in the story, encoded through a beautiful metaphor, that is undefeatable. That's what takes root. That may take 20 years or 20 generations, but that's the thing that wins every time. Is there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. So encoding that idea Matrix style, meaning literally in the movie The Matrix, like that is what will take off in generations of time. Plato's cave being told one more time. Like this all goes back to the story. So realistically, can this be done? Absolutely. Will it? Very unlikely.
Well, in our lifetime, maybe.
Yeah.
Less likely.
But a story could start.
Yeah.
So my vision would be to create a story that could be self-published or just put out on Reddit itself. How funny that would be. In order to put something out that is absorbed in the culture itself at the cultural level, before there's any defense. There's no defense to it. It's silly. It's just a story. It's just a comic book. It's just a graphic novel. It's just a movie. It's just a cartoon. It's just a kid show. But that's where it starts. It starts with that little tiny crack in the facade and getting the wedge in. And so building a narrative that's beautiful, that encapsulates this concept. And it reminds me very much of Ukraine right now, meaning President Zelensky. I don't know. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? President Zelensky?
Oh, yeah.
So he started as an actor.
Oh, right.
And what did he do? A TV show. He was a comic actor, so he's in comedy and acting. But what they did is they did like a TV show about what if an actor became president. This is so ridiculous, by the way, that is just right on the nose. So they did this show about what if an actor became president. And then lo and behold, what happened? He went for politics and he was very popular and he got elected. And then the whole thing with Russia, and now he's on the world stage, etc. But my point is, the narrative is what drives. The story is what lives. Cannot be defeated without suppressing freedom of speech. So anybody who's suppressing freedom of speech, just take a guess where they're going with that, by the way.
Right.
Big Brother is for real, meaning he who controls the present controls the past, who controls the past controls the future. This is about memory hole. This is about, Fahrenheit 451. This is about controlling and censoring freedom of speech. There's nothing more important because ideas are meaningless in your head. But having the ability to share your crazy ideas is the beginning of the revolution. And so having an access point like Reddit style message boards where you can get participants at virtually no cost to them to click up or down and start utilizing this crowdsource of that's a great idea or that's a terrible idea or whatever. The reality of having this at our disposal has never been applied to politics as far as I know.
Right. I can't think of something that's similar. It does seem like I said, revolutionary. I have a couple other questions, but
Please shoot.
Oh, I was just because again the elected person is just kind of representing these ideas that the crowd or community is coming up with. How do what about like topics that just happen to not come up but should be talked about? Is there do you foresee a mechanism of I don't know, some type of moderator or something over the next week, here's the topic, or does that not come into play at all? Is it only the things that the users throw out there? And
are we talking about during the campaign or when someone's actually in office?
I suppose during the campaign, when these ideas are being shared and there's some kind of consensus coming together about look at this had the most upvotes, this is sort of what the crowd has sort of agreed.
I would think there would be a network effect with say call them power users. So someone who's a high level influencer in the party with massive amounts of karma, when they would post, I would assume if you branch this out, there's no way to follow each individual democratized topic, just like you can't absorb all of Reddit. But there is an all page, where it does flow to the hot topics that are getting lots of upvotes, downvotes, or comments right now. So I think there would be a way to have essentially a dashboard effect, because there's no way for everybody to read every single thing and comment and vote upon everything. I don't think that's feasible. So you're kind of representing a subset of representative governance in the message board itself by having people point a finger, as it were, on topics that are important. I don't know if that deals exactly with what you're talking about. I'm trying to figure out if you have, because here's the thing, you do have to get an injection of novelty into the system, where when you have a executive leadership concept where it's just one person creating their own platform, or one person making all the promises. There is a strength to the fact that they can change very rapidly, and there is a bit of a sedentary feel or a locked in feel to crowdsourcing the decision making process. I would hope that technology would bridge that gap. Whereas if we were trying to do all these votes by, Pony Express, it's just never going to work.
Right. Yeah.
But because we have a fluid system with technology, I do conceive that ideas would spread virally, and maybe it's not just message board, maybe it's a TikTok system where everybody is posting, a vlog of their idea, and then we're downvoting the vlog. I don't know. I mean, there's some way, I think, to get out the ideas and then allow those ideas to be churned within a dynamic network system with technology, and then the output being some kind of barometer of what the people want.
Yeah. And I think one of the crucial pieces there from the get-go, because you mentioned like power users, and we talked about gamification, is like, transparent. I believe it can be done too, and I think the way to do it is with like full open transparency. This is exactly how it works. Anybody can look and see, why does this person have so much karma? Like, that has to be built in there so that person can see, like, look, this is why. And I mean, some of that is going to at some point be like so granular. Okay, they have 50,000 karma because they got so many votes over 30,000 posts. Is someone going to like literally look at 30,000 posts? If they want to, they need to be able to. You know what I mean? It's less important. I think it's less important if.
That's my thing, is you can't fake that. You can't come in
and
manufacture 10 years of history. If you're taking 3,000 posts a year, let's just say.
It depends, like when you say like you can't, because like that immediately makes me think about that whole thing Facebook did when they were like, come post your videos, for publishers, right? Like come post your stuff on Facebook, and then they were inflating the view counts by like a factor of 100 or 1,000 or some crazy thing. I mean, that's what I'm saying is like,
and suppressing the counter voices that they don't want to be heard, they would suppress those. I think that goes back to dirty tricks,
exactly,
dirty pool or politics or whatever. And so you would have to believe in the veracity of the platform, and this being there's not going to be ads, is my point. We're not trying.
I also
for
think,
sure. Oh yeah, for sure.
You almost have to get a little big brother to make that system work. And I'm going to say that you would almost have to have some sort of security in place, like a nationwide retina scan database.
How about that?
And you can only participate in this online forum using that retinal scan, because otherwise it's going to be like Reddit or Facebook or X, anywhere else where you have all these foreign bots waging influence campaigns.
Well, hold on. We started with the premise you register for the party.
So that's that database, that registration. But to Tucker's point, like how do you make sure that the person that registered isn't an AI or a bot? Or is that where you're going?
Well, sort of. I was going to say you could do a blockchain and make this thing completely transparent and have many nodes, so nobody could big brother this thing. I think Tucker's got a good point. If you're going to streamline everything through a tech, you're going to get to a big brother situation. And I think blockchain would make that completely transparent, such that there is no unified controlling party with the information level itself. No one's going to go back and edit these words. No one's going to fake the votes. No one's going to play dirty tricks if it's completely transparent in a blockchain sense, with nodes transcribing this set of public ledgers, if it were, of the data. So I think there is a method to make this fully transparent and not just behind some different curtain than the current curtain. So I do think that's an adequate critique, and I do think it needs to be fully public, not for profit,
right,
and not owned by any single person,
right.
And then to the point of bots, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I think I already already countered the fact that bots are really not likely, in that you have to be registered for the political system. So you'd have to fake a human being. But let's just say that you could fake a human being in the future for whatever reason. I think based on the ideas, just because you can fake a human being doesn't mean you could fake a good idea. So I cannot imagine the ability for someone to create enough fictitious participants to both fake an idea and fake their votes to get them into a flank of the platform without someone realizing this is not real, or this is antithetical to the concepts of the party platform as a whole. So my point being, even if you could do it, it better be a good idea. And if some bot is going to make a good idea, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean,
Well,
I
yeah,
don't think
because
it's right, but I don't.
yeah, because I think it kind of goes back to the my question earlier and the idea of like sarcasm and stuff, where well maybe the karma is like weighted based on is this just like a comment that was added, like a snarky comment, like not that that's not worth anything, but
Well, on the
maybe it's
directly
not
to
as
this
worth as
point,
much as like an original idea, like a proposition of like here's the way this could be, you know, some problem could be solved.
well, correct me if I'm
Maybe
wrong.
those are where the bigger karma, points come in.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Tucker, here, but I think some subreddits have a karma threshold in order to begin posting.
Correct.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So what I would say is we want to separate the wheat from the chaff, and that first level separation is just being, can you, be a reply guy, if you were, can you just get into this thing and add value, and not just be downvoted to, obscurity every single time you post a comment before you can begin creating your own threads and topics.
Yeah, and some real world experience of mine, when I found that out, the first time I can't post in the subreddit unless I have so much karma. I think I Googled it, but I saw like, oh, you can go here and this other subreddit and just, put a post and you'll just get like tons of karma. And I tried that. And then I went and commented on this original I don't even remember what it was, but I went and commented on this original subreddit and it was rejected, and it said we can see that you got this karma from this like fake
Karma
site.
farm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, oh, that's good tech. Conversely, with TikTok, you can't go live or even participate in a live. You can view a live and you can comment, but you can't be brought into the live and speak and be on camera or anything unless you have 1,000 followers. And I Googled that as well, and it was a similar thing. Like, oh, you can just do this and like buy. You can spend money and like buy followers. I didn't do that. I don't do a lot on TikTok, but I was like, well, I'd prefer to like organically get 1,000 followers one day. By the way, I don't even think I have 100 followers, so maybe that'll never happen. But what I find interesting is I don't think TikTok has that same level of thing, because the kind of people that I see in TikTok lives, it's like, you don't have 1,000 people interested in what you're putting on TikTok. Like that's, yeah, that's just so.
Well,
So the whole point to
owns-
me is
someone
is
owns that subreddit though, John, meaning that's their baby. Like they actually care about the culture of that subreddit, because
Yeah, so
some moderator created that.
yeah, and I mean, a person has their own, TikTok channel and their live TikTok thing, and there's a similar thing there. But my point is, yeah, what the technology that Reddit has, where they can see like, this isn't real karma from real people. This is, manufactured fake karma farms, whatever. That is a better direction, I think, than what TikTok has, which for this concept, I'm saying, for this concept where we want things to be genuine and transparent and not, faked just to get this, ability to post ideas or whatever.
Well, let's be clear. Freedom of speech is great until you get a heckler at a show.
Well,
So let's say you're at a comedy show, right? And you have this comedian, and everybody paid $100 a ticket, and there's a 3-drink minimum and all the rest, and you're out on date night, you got a babysitter and yada yada, and some drunk asshole just will not stop. They're going to ruin it for 100 people. And so
Potentially. And then you have comedians like Bob Zaney, who is the king of handling hecklers. I remember, like, I was at a place that people heckle him because they know he's gonna just like tear into them.
yeah.
I saw him once at the Pikes Peak Center. There's a balcony. Somebody said something, and the guy was like, "You might want to leave home early, Mr. Lincoln," or something. I mean, it was just like so spot on. And then also Brad Garrett. Brad Garrett's another one I've heard. He played the brother in Everybody Loves Raymond. Tall guy, real deep voice.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
He owns a comedy club at the MGM Grand in Vegas, and I've heard through the Bob and Tom show that he's done actual sets where the whole thing was just him walking around the crowd and just kind of having people heckle him and him just the back and forth with the crowd, and that wasn't the plan. It was just spontaneous, like, oh, this is what we're gonna do tonight. Okay,
Funny.
let's go. So I not I'm not totally disagreeing with you, but I think there is, like everything, this nuanced gray area where it depends, right? It kind of depends.
Well, maybe there is a creative component, meaning artistically it is generative to do that thing, and maybe there would be some corner of the room, if you get my metaphor here, in the whole message board that allows for that kind of a thing. But what I'm trying to get at is we don't want a very tiny minority to muddy the waters of the majority trying to make progress with formulating a detailed plan on how to create planks in a party platform that representatives will then strive to achieve and implement. I mean, it's a very clear thing in my mind. It's very, very clear. Crowdsource with influential people leading the way. Anybody has a chance to become that influential person, but you do have to earn it.
Mm-hmm,
And then those influencers, crowdsourcing the ideas to elucidate clear and concise direction for governance.
Yeah.
So my take is right now there's no, like, here's part of our problem, just a 30,000 foot view. Whether you're an R or D or you don't vote or whatever, cycle after cycle, I don't see an educated process. So let me backtrack from, downplaying communism and say communistic China seems very clearly led. It seems like they have a path of governance. They are looking out for the national interests and well-being of their people. And they have a concept, a plan, a mission that is in continuity. There is a continuous evolution of improvement in that body. And what we have is a constant dogfight, gladiatorial exhibition of winner take all, and then once the winning side wins, they just run amok until they get vanquished in 4 or 8 years, and then they run amok. And it's just like a zigzag of chaotic hedonism.
Yeah.
Who
Who can talk the best shit?
can talk the best?
Yeah. Right now, I almost think letting Reddit govern would be the better option because, okay, you don't have a ton of karma. I do fairly well with my biting sarcastic wit. But you know what? The butthole pics. That is who is running Reddit.
Well,
Yep.
come on. Well, now, see, I did fear by bringing up the Reddit model, it would devolve to this eventually, butthole pics. But what we're talking about is the structure of Reddit.
Yes,
not
right.
the
We're not
users.
saying, yeah.
And
The
number
framework.
two,
Yeah,
the framework. Number two is Reddit is anonymous, and I am strongly against anonymity in a political context. I think you have
like you said, you're registered here. It's very clear you're a human.
correct.
I love that you said that you would earn the karma. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. That's
Correct.
That's part of the infrastructure that, the general idea of Reddit is where we're getting this idea. But yeah, like some of these things aren't built into Reddit now. So yeah, we're not trying to say.
It is a slippery slope when you start bringing up the R word,
It is.
but it's infinitely funny, by the way. I am a massive Reddit consumer. I don't post. I think I post maybe 2 or 3 times. I don't vote, but I do consume Reddit style. And so it is a very strong component. It's an influence of mine in that I want to acknowledge that like today we're dealing with, I'm just going to arbitrarily pick some numbers out of thin air. Let's just say 30 or 40% of the electorate is boomers. And I don't think they are capable of transitioning to this style. They would be diametrically opposed. They wouldn't understand it. But
I need my paper menu.
Yeah, exactly. But in 20, that's beautiful. I love the voice too. In 20 years, though, we're going to have X's and millennials and Z's and alphas, and nobody's going to think twice about, yeah, of course I go on and talk my politics on a message board. Of course I do.
Right.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't I? What
Yeah.
do you want to go do? Like sit on a soapbox and shout at the sky, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Like that kind of a thing. And so I think we're looking at a time frame of the people who are unacceptable into this, as opposed to being like radically into this. I think they're just going to disappear just by the nature of, humans only live so long. So I'm looking at the future, the next big thing of what will have to be, whether it comes up through this third party concept or some other political concept hijacks the idea or takes, in parallel comes up with this, it will happen this way. There will be some kind of a digitized common space that's not butthole pics and just
Right.
bleeding eyeball sarcasm kind of shit that will be productive and will be constructive and will take the vast amount of apathetic people who are stuck not participating right now and will collectivize them into some massive block of voters. And that's what I'm waiting for right now. By the way, if we look up, if you can Google or chat GPT or whatever, what is the percentage of participating Americans in the election process, actual voters? What is it? I'm thinking it's probably about 50%. I'd say 25 R&D. And so about 50% is my guess in modern day is apathetic non-voters.
2/3, 66% in 2020.
Okay.
So
For the
higher for, and that would have been presidential.
presidential election, yeah.
But
even-
I would say you get into,
State, local.
non-presidential, non-national elections.
Yeah, probably a lot lower.
But even that, just take that number and just say, okay, so if it's 33 and 33, then the middle is also 33. So whichever way the middle goes is what wins. This is, once again, this goes back to this survivor mentality.
Yeah.
It's not as hopeless as you think when you get to a certain stage of the game. Once you get to a certain stage of the game and the alliances are so, because they can't cross over, they will not help each other. The R will not cross over to the D and vice versa in order to become a 50% plus one. Like, how easy would it be for the two mainstay political parties to just ice out any third party in the world by crossing over and just saying, we have 33 and 33. We could easily cross over and make 51 at any time. And nobody would ever have a chance because democracy is majority rule. But they won't do it. They're going to be so far apart in ideology that the 33 will always be separated by a vast ocean between the other 33%. And so it is the middle. If they want to play the game at all, they're forced to go to either side. And I'm saying that is the key. That is the key, is to secure that middle ground and extract a game theory penalty for not being able to cross over and make a majority.
Yeah, no, I agree. The only meaningful positive change in politics is going to happen from moving away from left to right and towards the center, where there's actual conversations happening and not just finger pointing.
So imagine the juxtaposition of the two crowds of geriatric old people and some fanatic young people screaming, stomping their feet, crying, wailing, streamers, light shows, confetti, balloons, ridiculous, levels of media attention, budgets in the billions of dollars per campaign, multi-billions of dollars. And then there's going to be a group of people who can clearly and with annotations, like document their points of view and have citations and back their claims up with evidence, and almost like a Wikipedia style debate internally, and then go in public and comport themselves as if they're at a lecture at a university, and the amount, or a boardroom, or any organized group of human beings that's not political. I mean, the amount of
Yeah, the TED Talk idea.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. The TED Talk idea. I think that's a perfect way to look at it. Just the adults in the room, like please, every adult in the room, please stand up.
Right.
Can we please do this thing? Can we just stop with the kid games? Can we stop with the
Yeah.
childishness?
Yeah, the middle school schoolyard bully type of
Totally.
mentality. Just like, come on. I don't care that your dad could beat up my dad. It's irrelevant.
But China's eating our lunch. I mean, they're the adults in the room. You know, the people internationally that are not in this ridiculous American political system are they're the adults in the room. And we are, like, we have to, and I'm going to put my political bias on this, and we could, you know, not devolve this, so let's stop quickly. But like, let's kind of just collapse the idea of an empire. Let's kind of pull back a little bit. Let's kind of regroup. Let's kind of restart the game. Let's restart and say we have new generations coming. We need to get rid of the old way, kind of look at a new way. We have new technologies. We have new concepts. Let's start again. Let's start again. I think we need to start again, a fresh slate. Just kind of like, let's stop throwing stones at our past, our histories, what was once the way it was, and stuff. Let's just look forward.
Yeah.
Sloganizing now, I apologize, but let's actually just fresh slate this thing. You know, we're so intractably enemies of each other, and I don't mean us three. I mean the left-right dichotomy. Like, we got to get rid of that. And so I think it'll be such a breath of fresh air to have an adult style conversation, TED Talk style conversation, with the conjunction of technology and having real people have real impact. Imagine if you're just a kid or a young person in this world. You're so disillusioned because you know you have no impact. There's no way you can make an impact. Well, this would be a real way that someone could earn their way into the conversation and actually have a legitimate impact on the way the world is run, state and local, eventually federal. And that's pretty inspirational, you know, if I do say so myself, to think that.
Yeah, I think part of the big issue and where America lost its way is, what's our goal right now? Like, politics needs a fucking life coach. Like, what is your goal?
Nice.
Where do you want to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
And then you discuss how you get there. But nobody's having that conversation. It's just,
yeah. Who's gonna win? Like, it's all about winning and winning and winning and winning. And
but the goalposts are constantly moving. That is Tucker's point, I think, is we don't really have a true goal. It's a fictitious goal.
Yeah.
And it's smoke and mirrors. So to this point, this is a really good segue into something I want to talk about, which is the divide between state and local and federal. So we talked about 10th Amendment last time, and we talked about constraints, you know, constitutional constraints on the federal government. And what I would like to see is some sort of a compromise on the federal side with very hard limits, but limits meaning the number of things we're trying to do. Because I think that what we're stuck with right now is such a broad brush approach of what the common good is at the federal side that there is no goal. You cannot pinpoint what the goal of anything is, because now you have a regulatory or departmental body that oversees a process, a system, a regulatory governance body. It's just so amorphous and impossible to pin down. And you end up with this blob, this growth of the deep state, if you will, this fact that, check my math, I think 30% of our GDP is state and federal spending. I think there's like 4 million plus federal employees. And by the way, it's not just first order federal employees, but there's also people who are, like their one customer is the government. They pretty much make everything they do is to supply some sort of product or service to the government. So we have this massive bloated, upside down budgeted national debt. I mean, let's just talk about this real quick. It's very important. And back to Tucker's point, I will conclude with why I think this ties in. But the 5 main budgetary items in our federal government that make up approximately, I think it's 80% of our budget, is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the military, and interest on the debt. Let me say that again. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the military, and interest on the national debt. Those 5 things make up over 80% of our national budget every single year. And so the other 20 things that everybody's talking about, the other 20% of the things, the discretionary spending, that's what's campaigned upon. That's what people talk about when they talk about left versus right. It's bullshit. You look at the pie chart, the 80% that is always there in those 5 items is what should be discussed, and it is never discussed. The 20% that is a little bit more than a rounding error, but that's where the death battle comes in. That's literally just the gravy train. That 20% is the fucking pork. That's it. The whole shooting match is over this ridiculous 20%. Ridiculous. I mean, it's trillions of dollars, but in comparison to our national debt, okay, we're in $34 trillion territory of national debt, growing $2 trillion a year. And that's different than a budget deficit, just so we're clear. National debt, this is what we're giving to future generations of Americans to pay for, that we're doing right now. It's unconscionable. It's evil. And I use that specifically. But now back to Tucker's point. Here's what I would say on our federal system. This would be my first Reddit post. And I might have mentioned this in the show notes. Each category, main topic, healthcare, education, defense, whatever it may be, broad swath category of federal oversight should have, arbitrarily picking a number right now, 10 things. 10 things that can be documented. These are the 10 things we're going to look at this next 4 years, or this next cycle of whatever number of years. These 10 things, and these 10 things alone. Because I think part of the problem is there's so much stuff going on. There's so many different levels of force being applied simultaneously. There's no way to disentangle what is right and what is wrong, what worked, what didn't, why. It's way too complex. So if we streamline and just say, maybe 10 things is not enough, maybe it's 100 things, I don't care, whatever the number, arbitrary number, we're going to limit it to these are, we don't have a department of education, we have 10 educational goals. We don't have a national institution of health. We have 10 health goals. We want to take the top 10 diseases that are affecting our population, just the top 10, and we're going to tackle those as a group. And each one gets its own line item, and each one has a strategy and tactics on how to destroy the deaths of despair and cancer and heart disease and diabetes and hypertension and lung disease and liver cancer and whatever. And that way we actually know what the fuck is up. Because I feel like right now, nobody knows, to Tucker's point, nobody knows from cycle to cycle what is actually happening. No accountability. Nothing is there's no goals. Would you say, Tucker, we need a life coach? That is literally it. We need goals, motherfucker. You're just trying to do everything. You have no idea what's going on. Right? The life coach is looking at you. Well, I know why you're not succeeding, because you try a different thing every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's our country right now. All these
we need another big mission. We're gonna have a lunar colony in 20 years. That's the type of thinking this country needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so each of those groups then, science and technology. Okay, what do we need? We need space elevator. We need lunar colony. We need increase of renewable resources. We need whatever it is. All the, I mean, we just can pick these things. Like no one's stopping us. The illusion is that we're stuck. We're not. We're just domesticated to the point of being infantile. That's pretty strong words, but I'm calling it like I see it. We, meaning the population, the group, the ones that are being led around by our nose, we have been domesticated. We cannot stand up. We don't have true grit. We're not stubborn enough to say, no, I will not follow. This does not make any sense. I'm not a rah-rah piece of shit, follower. I'm not going to do that. But enough people don't stop and say, I will not follow. That we are giving our mandate. Back to this thing, like, if you don't follow politics, they follow you. And this is, what's that classic guy, that comedian from the 80s, the Russian guy, who is like, in Russia, you don't hit the hammer hits you. Like everything turned around. Like we did that little thing. It was so funny, by the way. I can't remember.
Yakov Smirnoff. Yeah,
Yakov Smirnoff. Thank you. Yeah, Yakov. Yeah. Like everything is a function of that now. Like you cannot just abdicate. Like it is going to come get you, everybody. Anybody listening, it is going to come get you. You cannot just say, I don't do this because it's going to come and do you. They're coming for you. They're coming for you. They're coming for you. Your standard of living is going to decrease because they're coming for you. They're going to keep taking little pieces off the edge because they're coming for you. It's going to get worse because they're coming for you. And I think once upon a time, we had so much momentum in this country, post-World War II. We had destroyed the means of production so far and wide everywhere else that we were the only game in town. And you couldn't lose. Any bet you placed, it was a winner. And when you just win championship after championship after championship and your fingers and toes are covered in rings and you're just tired of winning so hard, you get to the next level. So up the stairs with wooden shoes, down the stairs with silk slippers. It's going to happen. We are going to fall down these stairs. We are already. It's already happened. Future will tell. So there is going to be a revolution. It's not necessarily.
We are absolutely in end stage capitalism, and the only problem with that is that being the probably first large empire to go through it in the modern times, we don't know exactly where we're at. We're definitely in the end, but are we in 10 years of the end or 100 years of the end? That's where I think we don't know, but change is coming. The system is non-sustainable. The idea of capitalism and just infinite growth for all time, that was never a realistic thing. There's only so many resources. There's only so much land, and eventually you're going to have a population decline. Well, you don't get growth in a population decline, so it will fail at some point. We can't just keep populating the earth infinitely forever. Something will break.
It's like forever inhaling.
Yeah.
You cannot.
You got to let the breath out. You got to let the breath out.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So do we do it in a controlled manner, or do we do it because the shit has hit the fan and now we're scrambling? And so that's what this concept is. I agree wholeheartedly that we are end stage capitalism, end stage empire, end stage. I mean, even technology. We keep talking about this. How fast the technological progress is rapidly evolving humanity. So just the humans are different. I mean, you can't even just say it's apples to apples anymore. We're in like this weird apple orange mix where the apples are analogous to the boomer generation, whatever. The apples are still in control, but there's a lot of oranges around.
Yeah, maybe they're scared.
They are,
because you see them talking about talking heads, 18's too young to vote. And then you have the more extreme ones saying shit like, where this country went wrong was giving women the right to vote. and people aren't laughing them out of the room is the scary part.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting question to ponder for Whether, I don't know if this is relevant or will come up next episode, but just through the week, do you think it's more likely that, the next stage of um, whatever with the with government or economics, as you guys said, end stage capitalism, that next thing, do you think it's more likely that that next thing will happen first, or that, to Bob's point about technology, is evolving humans at a faster rate, right? Or that our consciousness will evolve to understand time in more than one direction first?
Hmm. Interesting.
Because that's a game changer. I mean, who could even say what would happen if humans, I'd like to say when humans are able to perceive time in more than just a forward linear direction, then, oh my gosh, like everything goes out the window, doesn't it? Right?
I'm going to simplify it, John. I'm going to simplify it and say consciousness, being able to manipulate the direction, the arrow of time, okay, will not be able to disconnect or untether the feeling of being hungry and then eating and then hunger going away.
Mm.
Such that,
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
I think, as enlightened as we can get, each urban center in this country or worldwide or any place is about 72 hours away from absolute anarchy. If everybody were hungry, the only thing that keeps a city together is full bellies.
Yep.
Period. So 3 days. I think you have 3 days, and you would get Law of the Jungle, and you would get fuck your consciousness. I'm going to kill you.
I need to eat.
Yeah, I need to eat. And by the way, this is not an American phenomenon. This is worldwide. I mean, this is literally what we should be focusing on, is not over expanding to the point where we have a collapse due to inability to feed 10 billion, 12 billion, 15, 20 billion people, or whatever it's going to be, because that's what we're racing against. We're racing against this inevitable overexpansion, like Tucker was talking about, of too many bellies, not enough food, and fuck your politics. Because when that happens and the law and order goes out the window, law and order only works when you think, yeah, I'll follow these rules because I got a full refrigerator at home.
Mm.
And yeah, I'll do my job, and the boss, he's a dick, but I get a paycheck. I get to drive home and eat dinner tonight. And it sure beats being hungry, or sure beats having to go hunt some food.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
tale.
Yeah. And the people, by the way, the people who in this world are experiencing that right now, meaning there are people in this world, probably 2 billion or so, who don't have that luxury and have never had that luxury, but they're becoming aware of that luxury. And that's going to be a game changer.
I thought you were gonna go Tyler Durden there and say, and they are very pissed off or something.
That's a better way. Yeah, I mean, effectively yes. Effectively becoming, because here's the thing: what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
What do you have to lose when you're hungry? Let's go back to Guns N' Roses. We were talking about Guns N' Roses at length. I'm trying to remember what song it is now. Dang it. I think it is. Oh, it's killing me. I think it is. It's going to kill me that I don't remember this. But it's easy. It's easy to be. It's easy to be hungry when you ain't got shit to lose. Meaning, people who want to have drive. Like, there's a reason why there's one-hit wonders. It's because they have a big hit and then they're not hungry anymore, and there goes your drive. So it's easy to be.
I always said if I owned a metal label and I had a band that took off, I would basically have it set up where it's like, okay, you have your millions of dollars, but it's in this trust that you will receive after you've completed your contractual albums. And I'm going to keep you young, hungry, and a little bit on the impoverished side so that I get those angry albums out of you. Because as soon as that trust hits and you have all that money, your music's going to suck.
Totally. It's a universal human dynamic that when you're hungry, you are motivated. When you are full, all that, no matter your intellect, it has nothing to do with your ideas, has nothing to do with, your force of will. It just feels different. Just feels easy to be sedentary when you have a full belly. And when your tummy's rumbling and you're starving, you're not going to sit down. You're going to start walking around finding food. It's human nature. And so that's going to be the thing, is going to be haves and have nots. I don't know if you guys remember, there was this thing maybe about 10, 12 years ago about the 1%. This Occupy
You
Wall
mean,
Street.
yeah, I was gonna say the Wall Street thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Occupy Wall Street and the 1%. And this thing's coming. I mean, we're going to keep hearing this. It's going to echo more and more. There's little things that suppress it, little candy and little bread and circuses and what have you, like AI, little things that come out that are titillating, TikTok, Netflix, whatever, the Sphere in Vegas. These little things
The new shiny thing.
the new shiny thing, and it works. It does distract, and it does entertain, and it does make you feel kind of giddy and like, oh, that's cool, and yeah, nice. But there's billions of people alive, and there's going to be many more billions of people to come who are not going to be so easily entertained, and there will be a have not, battle eventually.
Yeah,
It's the way it always happens.
things will change once knowledge of, the first occurrence of people finding out that a billionaire's actual worth is, they can feed a family of four for about 4 days if cooked properly.
Oof. 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 That is. Hey, I don't disagree though. I mean, the reality of the economic system is it's imaginary.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you could literally, you own what you can protect. I mean, you own what you can keep in the real sense. So when everybody's hungry and they're going to say, you know what, all these laws that I keep hearing about, they don't really exist. I mean, you say they do, but that's not going to stop me and my 100 friends.
Well, and I already see the cracks forming, and I just look at traffic about the way people drive now, and it's like the cracks in the social contract have already formed, and they're widening. Red lights, I'll run this one. I don't care. I do what I want.
It is gnarly when you see someone just like take off at a red light. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, the social contract, there's cracks forming in it because we've created a system where people are wising up to the fact that there are two sets of rules. There's the set of rules that we're supposed to follow, and then there's the set of rules that the 1% and the governors, and I use that term to encompass all the political landscape, that they have to follow. And they're not the same set of rules. Well, once people realize that, they go, well, this shit's all made up. I don't have to follow any of these rules.
And by the way, the rules are imbalanced as a function of population.
Yeah.
It is a small minority that gets the good set of rules, and it's the vast majority that has to play by the hard set of rules.
Yep.
And it's not that hard to figure out. I mean, the problem is the calculation of each person of risk reward, meaning, man, that grocery store is just filled with cheap food, and I can go watch an infinite amount of Netflix and Amazon Prime videos and play video games and do my 9 to 5, and I got a car and I can get on Reddit and watch my TikTok. I mean, it's just life. I mean, let me put it this way. Go back 500 years, a king would not have a common man's life this year. This in this day and age. A king would not have a common man's life. That's how much we've advanced as a society. You have penicillin, you have dental surgery, you have painkillers, you have McDonald's, you have champagne, I mean, the amount of luxury that the modern human gets, first world modern human gets, is relative to in our, not too distant past, say 400 or 500 years ago. I don't even think, I think literally like a Renaissance level person who was drinking alcohol because the water would kill you.
Right.
You literally have dysentery and just diarrhea to death if you didn't drink beer and wine and mead every meal. Just think about that. You literally couldn't drink water because water will kill you. I'm not talking salt water. I'm talking fresh water.
Right.
But between, dysentery and all the diseases associated with unpurified, because they don't have germ theory. They don't understand what it means to clean your water. They don't understand you can boil it and not die from it. And no, just you're a baby. You drank water. Now you shit yourself to death. Game over.
Well,
Yeah.
shit. I remember going to a Pompeii exhibit, right? And they had artifacts that they had excavated from the ruins and stuff. All their water system, the pipes, the buckets, their vessels, they were all lead.
Yeah.
And
Welcome to your 75 IQ.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the amount of advancement. Now, when I say advancement, I'm saying like this accumulation of historical events that are technologically driven. I don't mean evolutionary advancement. You know what I mean? Like this is the key. We're the same people as them. They're the same as us.
We just have better toys.
We just have much better toys. So the amount of suppression of being a free animal on this planet for however 70 years, whatever you got, it's strong now. Like there is a strong golden leash around everybody's neck. It feels good to be in this golden cage. It feels real easy peasy to go play Grand Theft Auto, smoke weed, watch porn, go on Tinder, drive around, get a plane, go to Hawaii, go to Bermuda. I mean, it's really enticing. I mean, it is the Matrix. This is how good it is. It's like I want to go back and eat that steak.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's an illusion. It feels good in my mouth. Undeniably, I can chew this thing up. I know it doesn't last. I know I'm being suppressed. I know the billionaires are fucking me over. I know that I have no choice politically. I'm just given this false choice here, and it's just an illusion. I mean, so many people know this, but what choice do you have? So there's going to come this tipping point, and my fear is when it does tip, it's a cascade, and it doesn't tip slowly. It tips like real fast, and it's going to be. That's my fear, is that I will be, one of the sad generations that's in the tipping point. Although the closer I get, the less like I think will actually tip over in my lifetime, but my kids or my kids' kids or something.
Right.
But that's the fear, is like when this thing goes, it doesn't go a little bit. It goes all at once. Because once that, that running the red light motif catches on and just, you know what? Like they call it, I don't know if you guys are from that broken window theory. I think I might have talked this once upon a time. It's a law enforcement theory. If you allow, because let's say you're so busy, you're in New York City, and you allow people to throw rocks at windows, do graffiti, jaywalk, whatever. Well, you got your hands full with murders and rapes and robberies and all this, complicated stuff. The theory is it starts with breaking the windows. It starts with graffiti. It starts with little gangs. And if you don't suppress it, if you don't have law and order, the realization that I'm untouchable, I really am not going to get caught, I could just do whatever I want, catches on, and it manifests into the murders and the rapes and the assaults and big time robberies, etc. So the only chance you really have when you're talking about a city of, say, 10 million people, and let's say you have 50,000, 100,000 police officers, there's really no way. Just like any prison, you have a couple hundred guards and thousands of prisoners. There's no way, if the prisoners all said, let's just go crazy, there's no way to stop that. It's only their compliance in this, make-believe society of you just got to sit in the cell for this amount of time and we'll let you out or whatever. That's the only thing that keeps it from boiling over, is the self-acceptance of the population. And that self-acceptance is emboldened when you're allowed to break windows, as much as you want. So I think we're well past breaking windows. We're well past graffiti. We're into running red lights and simple assaults and shoplifting and whatever.
The big one in our town right now is they steal a Hyundai or a Kia and then drive it through the front door of a shop and rob it. And this is like every week. Every week this is happening somewhere in our town. And it's either vape shops or gun stores.
The Kias are easy to hotwire or something like that.
Yep, they're easy to steal.
They're easy to steal, and then you use it as a ram to break into a store. Yeah, I mean, it's going to theoretically it would snowball, and there is a tipping point at which it no longer is feasible to just go home from your 9 to 5 and go eat the food in your refrigerator because there's a squatter now in your house and they claim possession, and the police are too busy dealing with rapes and murders to come help you. So you got to take the law into your own hands and yada, yada, yada. I mean, there is this point at which things break down. And so that is, and by the way, this is what the government is supposed to be doing. So law and order, meaning liberty and justice. Back to the party. Next time, I would like to talk about the justice system. I would like to talk about judicial.
This is probably like a good place to wrap up, because I like how you said earlier, this is the liberty episode, and next time will be the justice episode.
Yes.
And
which is the point of governance. I mean, this is, we're here to maintain a realm of freedom for personal expression. We're not law of the jungle, because there's a benefit to cooperative behavior, but not all people agree with such a thing. So in order to have freedom, you have to have justice. So liberty and justice are the two prerequisites, in my opinion, to society itself. Without these two things, you cannot have a society.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool. Well, yeah, this was a really good one. So honestly, the last 5 or 10 minutes, I feel like I'm more bummed out. So I've been can I find some silver lining here to be more cheerful way to end this? But I couldn't think of anything. But earlier we said let's have fun with ChatGPT with a closing quote. We were talking about maybe something about politics. But how about I ask ChatGPT for a quote about liberty, and see if it gives me the Patrick Henry quote that everybody probably thinks of, give me liberty or give me death. I'm gonna guess it's not gonna give me that, but we'll see. But before I do that, any final just quick thoughts to wrap up?
Well, to take some of that despair and grimness out of what is going on and what could happen, you just got to remember, the only constant is change. Nothing lasts forever, and from the ashes of the old, something new is born.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
I might say that's a better quote than whatever ChatGPT is about to give me, so thank you for that. But yeah, so thank you all for listening. Sendingpoets@gmail.com to get a hold of us. And here we go. ChatGPT, give me a quote about liberty. And here it says, oh my God, it disappointed me. Give me liberty or give me death. Give me another quote.
That's funny.
Give me another quote about liberty. I mean, I should have asked you guys what you thought. All right, here we go. This is a quote attributed to George Washington, first president of the United States. It reflects his belief in the power and resilience of liberty once it is established. Washington often emphasized the importance of nurturing and protecting the fledgling freedoms of the new nation. By the way, that's just what it's, explaining about the quote. But here is the quote. So again, thank you for listening, everybody. Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth.